Hello, I want to see how this works. Live video. You don't care about me. You care about, how do I flip this around? You care about that guy. So we're going to do, I just want to tease people about, have part of it live.
Teasing them?
Yeah, teasing them a little bit. Because I want part of it live and then part of it. Are you coming over here?
See, now teasing them.
Oh. Jim Breuer.
We're going to tease them.
I'll save, this will be like let me start over. It's like the pre-intro.
Just pre-intro.
Because we were talking about haters off the air.
Oh my gosh, haters are ridiculous.
But, let's start the first thing with a lot of people said, everyone's excited that you're coming back on the show. And,
Sure.
And thank you.
Thank you.
And they're like, oh, see, this is what's good about live versus pre-recording. I can edit that out after. Yeah. The Axl hater is back.
I wasn't a fan. Was not a fan of...
Axl DC?
No, not at all.
Are you a fan of Guns N' Roses? Because, by the way...
I am. Will I go see... Listen, I was agitated. I'm still agitated from years ago. Of just the ego and not showing up and keep making fans wait forever. And that just annoyed me as a consumer. Pissed me off. If I'm showing up and your restaurant is I made reservations for your restaurant at 11 a.m. for a great brunch and I'm bringing everyone and you make me wait to 3 o'clock before I eat, I'm never coming to your restaurant again.
I get it.
So I don't understand what people are like, whoa, how can you be bad? If I pay and I plan on, it says here, you go up at 9 o'clock and you go up at midnight or just don't show up, I'm not coming to see you again. That was rude, and you're a jackass for making me do that. Now, people grow.
Right.
People change. So I'm all right with that. I wasn't against him. I was aggravated at the situation. So when AC/DC went down, or Brian Johnson was gone, there was no, hey, listen, here's what's going on. We're going to get him to fix it. It was just like, yep, there's our new, this, who's singing.
Really? That's how it went down?
Yeah, it was like Brian Johnson. There was no official announcement to go listen. It was, we thank him for our services. Thank you for your services? The man that sang Back in Black shook me all night long. AC/DC was here, and then they went to a whole new stratosphere.
They did.
For those about to rock and the famous video of Thunderstruck and every arena plays those songs, you just go, hey, thanks for your services. Axl, let's go. We're going on tour. What? This is my family breaking up. And my father just came in and said, listen, your mom's gone, but here's your mom in the meantime. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa. So,
did Angus I guess let's take a few steps back.
Yeah.
And of course, I love how you just got into it. I wanted to talk about your North American dates, everything coming up.
Live and let laugh tour.
You always wanted to say live and let die, part of you.
Live and let laugh tour.
And I'm glad that you're coming to, I'm moving to Queens next month, but right now you're going to be at the Paramount. Is that where you're kicking it off?
The Paramount.
On Long Island?
Yes, on Friday the 13th, September 13th.
Nice. Because right now I'm in Huntington, so you're 15 minutes away.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's a great city.
See, this is where I'm going to tie everything in. See how passionate you are, just like most music fans should be.
Yeah.
Have the certain kind of passion. Yeah. But you're just a kid from Long Island, like me.
Yeah.
Right now, this may be arguably, me and you talking, one of the coolest moments, if not the coolest moments in my career.
Well, cool. It's pretty cool for me right now.
So you've had many of those. You can talk about, obviously it's Saturday Night Live. I was watching an old episode with you and Chappelle on Home Improvement. You had a great... So when did The Rock come into the mix? When did you become friends with Brian Johnson? And you're seeing it how many of us see it, that he kicked out. But you know more than we do. So I guess how did you, I'm not going to say...
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. It's a little bit of... What's that baseball movie? Build It and They Will Come?
Yeah, Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. A little bit of Field of Dreams. Now... the 90s, SNL, I met, that helped, being on SNL helped meeting a lot of rockers.
Sure.
And one of them was Lars Ulrich showed up at SNL one day. He was in a hallway, in a staircase, confused and lost.
Was that the night they were performing?
No.
Okay.
No. I want to say, I don't know what band was it. Maybe Oasis was on.
Okay.
And he wanted to see whoever was on. And he was in a hallway, and I said, what are you doing? He goes, hi, I'm Lars. I went, I know who you are. I go, what are you doing? So I brought him to my dressing room. I said, hang here, and whatever you need, just let me know. And he said, cool. And then we exchanged, and we hung out a bunch. And so that's where our relationship started. And then that went into Hetfield. And then I knew when I was touring, I was a hard rock heavy metal guy. So it was Priest, Judas Priest, and all that stuff. I knew if I were to, and I was already doing bits in late 80s on not late 80s, early 90s, before SNL and all that, I want to say, bits for MTV and Comedy Central.
Okay.
And I was already talking about Metallica and AC/DC, and nobody was really talking about bands like that.
Nobody was doing it the way that you do. Someone just messaged me, Hokey Pokey.
Yeah, no one was doing that. So when I did the Hokey Pokey, it was a part of, because I love the band. I saw them probably a bunch of times by that moment in life already, and I still think they're one of the greatest all-time live bands ever.
Agreed.
But there was part of me, I'd be a liar if I said, there was a part of me that said, when I put this out, eventually, someone's going to know AC/DC, and someone's going to go, bro, have you seen this video?
That's smart.
Have you seen this guy imitating AC/DC? Someone had to.
So you had that in the back of your mind.
A little bit.
Even though you were doing it just for as part of your...
Even though I was doing it, there was...
Right on.
A little bit. And sure enough, I think it was... When did that special come out? Hardcore. Sure enough, it wasn't too much later where Brian Johnson called. And I was like, this is he's calling my house. Like, what's going on?
Did you think it was a joke, though? That someone...
At first, I thought, until I heard his voice, I went, nobody. I watched all the interviews in my life with Angus and Brian, and I'm like, this is him.
You know what he sounds like.
He's like, Jimmy son, I saw you doing the hooky pokey. I seen you doing the hooky pokey, and I went, oh my god! And he asked me to do an event for his wife.
Okay.
It's a benefit for a nonprofit theater down where he lived, and that was the beginning of getting to know.
That's
Brian.
cool. A lot of method to the madness, and I kind of feel I do the same thing a little bit. You know, I want to interview certain. Like to say, I didn't want to just interview rock people on here, right? Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I got someone like you and other comedians, so I was able to get, Tom Green, or even before you, hey, I interviewed Jim Florentine. I interviewed, so it's not just, I can talk about other things than just, obviously, Guns N' Roses. So there's always a method to the madness.
Right.
And you're smart in thinking about that. So, but what do you guys bond over? Because I'm not one of those guys, those radio guys that pretend just because I interview somebody that I'm friends with them after. Because I'm sure there are a lot of people that want to be your friend or want to be Brian Johnson's friend. Is there something that, instead of just being cordial, hey...
Our dads were World War II vets.
Okay.
And well, I shouldn't say his dad was World War II vet. He knows great history.
Okay.
He loves talking history. And my dad being in World War II, and that it's more life stuff like that. It's more life material that we would end up talking. It's mostly him talking and me laughing.
Right.
Because he'll get very serious and then hit you with a left field joke nonstop. I remember him having a conversation talking about Nazi Germans, and he's like, and he basically says, like, Jim, the Americans get a different history than us in England and the Europeans do.
I believe it.
It's a fact. Both sides.
Sure.
Our news, everything's different.
Yep.
We don't think it's different, but it's harshly different. I'm not saying which side is right. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying
the perspective, the way it's delivered.
It's like going in the neighborhood. Did you see the accident? No, but I heard this. What'd you hear? Oh, I heard this.
Game of telephone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he goes, Jim, the Germans, they're a lot smarter, and the world underestimates the very smart and organized people. And he goes, they were technically more far advanced than the rest of the world. And he goes, and they still are. He goes, think about it. A place the size of Rhode Island just walked over Europe like they were nothing. And he goes, and they were about to invade the States because they were off with their boats off of Florida. He goes, that's pretty powerful. He goes, but you know what the most amazing thing about Germans is? Why? He goes, they don't have a word for nipple. How can you be so powerful and you can't say nipple? And it's just like, and he hits you with these left field jokes that are so funny, but yet he's had these deep, long, historic. He told me so many great history, but I have to admit, I messed our relationship up.
Okay.
I messed it up bad.
What'd you say? You like Bon Scott better?
No.
Okay.
It was, I spent time with him, and it was right after it was raw, and it was right after the incident where his ears, and he just wasn't in AC/DC.
Right.
And as a friend, I was very angry for him.
Right.
And I was super, I was pissed. And I wanted to voice something maybe people, I took upon myself to talk about something that maybe I shouldn't have.
Like you were speaking for him and he just didn't want anything to say?
And the next day, and it was on a podcast. I was doing my podcast, and I was the first time I went on vacation, so it wasn't a normal podcast. I went on vacation, and the guy in the podcast called me, and we record the conversation. And normally, the way it would work is the guy recording then hands it to the producer. The producer edits it, and he edits it, and then I listen to it and we go, let's release it then. And that's not what happened. They released it the next day.
Okay.
And I woke up to about 100 phone calls, tweets, and everything. Well, why is Brian Johnson calling me 100 times? This is how I woke up. And it was all over the news, just Brian kicked to the curb, says comedian Jim Breuer, and we may have the real reasons, blah, blah, blah. And that was a terrible position to put him in. And whether it's true or not true or fabricated, doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I feel like a guy like Brian Johnson that's so open, so honest, so giving. I feel like I did him a major wrong by doing that, and I that's my one out of all my life. That's my biggest regret.
Huh? Did he understand that at all?
I'm sure he did, and we talked. But I can tell, it's a trust factor.
Mm.
Now I can't share certain things with you, and that was a huge learning thing for me, and I really regret that to this day.
Was it so much of what you had said, or was it the
It's
headlines that came out?
it was well, you know, the way headlines go is people just see the headlines,
Right.
and then they read.
Yes.
So the headlines were Brian kicked to the curb, says Jim Brewer. Brian fired. John, whatever the headlines read, it was Jim Brewer, and then it was, you know, and then it would say Jim said, but after spending time, and they would it was just well manipulated enough that it didn't make him look bad, but the conversation was like, Jim, this is bar talk, and this is it's like me talking to you, like, listen, I just want to tell you, and now it's all over the world. Like, dude, I'm just venting to you right now. This is not for the world to hear. This is while we're still going through things.
Mm.
And you know, it's one thing to stick up for someone. It's not your job unless it's a call to arms.
But I think obviously you get that, and if you were close at that point, I feel while yeah he can be kind of annoyed, he should still understand that, because that's happened to me in this world of Guns N' Roses. Anything that's clickbait, it seems like I'm the enemy. I've had like I'm not after anything sensationalist, so whatever, you know, Brian may have told you, whatever, I'm not going to probe you or push you for it. I'm not going to probe you regardless.
Yeah.
But they'll read a clickbait where, I mean, this one time this happened. A former Guns N' Roses drummer during the Chinese Democracy era, we were talking about like unreleased stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I have some unreleased remixes that I did," and there was a title that said former GNR person, and that like talks about new Guns N' Roses music.
Yeah.
And GNR's manager calls him, saying, "Why you're in no position to talking about new music?" And just like you, how you just woke up, he's like, "I just got out of a session. Like, I get all these 20 calls." I'm like, "I didn't say that."
Right, and before you can even think, and what I felt for Brian was, here he has probably maybe the AC/DC camp calling him, going, "Did you say this? Does this come from you?" And he's got, and the fact when you put someone else in that position, now he's not, dude, what are you talking about? No, I didn't say. I immediately put him in an awkward.
That's what
position where
I've
he has
done
to defend himself.
I know,
And that is so wrong to do to anybody. And that is my major, and whether he understands or not, it doesn't matter. I heard a really bad relationship, and to this day, I'm like, damn, you big mouth, you dummy.
It's still like sore. Like, do you speak with him?
I don't bother with him. Because I'm
sorry to hear that.
You feel it. You feel it. And I've been down there, and I've seen his wife, and but you feel that. That's that when someone puts you in that position, it's something that always stays there, whether you understand it or not. And I got to tell you, the best thing that helped me was the fact that he's back, and
yeah.
I can sleep a lot better at night because I remember the words from him, which now I can say.
Okay.
I was gonna say it because I literally feared for my life,
Huh.
and I'm being dead honest.
Okay.
Because there's crazy fans out there.
Yep.
I remember him saying to me, "Well, Jim, this may have screwed up any chance I would have had to get back with them." And to hear that was something, I just think about it now and my soul just dropped. Like, it's bad enough for me to live with that, but if that got out there, the fear of what might have happened.
It's Jim Brewer's fault.
Right?
I still feel
now,
he shouldn't have said that, though. I feel like on his end, is that right for him to put that kind of pressure on you?
Oh, no.
Because it wasn't malicious of you.
No, he knows it wasn't. And I know that. But when you're in the moment, like, you got to think of where he's from. All right, even though his ears were out and they were like, listen, it ain't working. We got to move on. It was already done. It was nothing I could have done to prevent that. There was zero that I could have done to prevent that. But when you hear that, if that's the way he's thinking, that's enough to be devastating. You know, that just the fact that he thinks that, like, man, I could. He might have been on the plan of. Now, don't forget, this just happened. It's still raw. The wounds are still open.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he's in this scenario, and he in his mind, maybe he's going, all right, I'll go through months. I'll get my ears fixed, and I'll go back sessions, and I'll start singing. I'll work my way back, and I get back. But now, because you said some crazy stuff, I may not even get that chance.
That's so weird.
But it's not. It's really not.
I mean,
because technically, now he's back, which is amazing.
Right.
And I can honestly say,
you didn't end a great rock band.
yeah, no, thank God. And who has the power? I don't have that power, and I don't
That's
want
why
it to sound like that.
That's why I
But
said it's weird.
That's what I was living with.
And I get it. If it's not weird from your feelings or his feelings. It's weird that something you had said would have ruined their relationship, where it wasn't a Sammy Hagar, Eddie Van Halen kind of thing. This was a health issue, and it seemed it was built like Axl was just there to save the day. Mm-hmm. That's how it was. And do you remember watching that interview where it was? I think it was Axl, Angus, and I think when Malcolm was still, and they were like, we tried to do the right thing. You know, I wish I obviously had the audio up. But
yeah. But you know, you got to think of as a fan, I'm watching, and once you know someone too, you lose the fandom. Like you have the fan, but now you know a little deeper of their world, so you're emotionally connected. So if my friend came to me and said, hey man, my ears went, or whatever's going on, and this is how I found out it's not going to happen, and it's just weird. There's no press conference with me. It's just weird. Here's the statement I got, the public statement that said, thanks for your services. What? What happened? I'm gonna. If that happened at Home Depot, me as a friend, I'm going to Home Depot, and I'm going, excuse me, my friend worked here for how many years, and he built that section. He sold you X amount, and you just let him go, and this is how you don't have the nads to go to his face and tell him this. You don't have the nads to show up and go, hey man, I can't. I'm telling you what. This is what you send? Are you kidding me? Who are you?
We all can relate to that.
That is where the emotional Jim Breuer. That's where emotional me got. I was like, dude, what?
Yeah, no, I get it.
So that's where I came, but again, it was a private conversation I had that was recorded, and then they must have thought, we got gold here. And instead of producing it and editing it, and I had an album coming out with Brian on it.
Okay.
So we were going to save that.
Yeah.
For when the album comes out, and I could really sit and listen, like, let's not do this. You know what? That's a little too much. Blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't meant for, it was March, April, May, June. At least 4 months before I was going to touch that. Not knowing now it's dropped and it was out there, and I'm not blaming the people that did it and didn't edit it, because at the end of the day,
it's what happened.
It's what happened.
So let me ask, because you just got finished, and it's amazing that I get to sit down with you for a little while now after a 2-hour morning radio tour where you're talking to station after station for 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. Now it's easier to get in trouble, maybe quote unquote trouble, when you do a long form podcast. And I always tell my guests, I know I'm doing some of this live, and you've said everything fine, and I'll edit. Sure. I'll stop it at some point, so people have to go. Oh, but I always tell somebody, especially if they're worried about how the Guns N' Roses world is going to react to what they say.
By the way,
yes,
I've never told anyone that story I just told.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about me. All right, I'll use an example. Yesterday or the day before, I interviewed this guy named Rocco Guardino, and he was Scott Weiland's personal assistant. And he went on tour with Velvet Revolver the first couple of years. He was an engineer. He directed the first video he ever directed was for Velvet Revolver. So it was a whole thing about a lot of addiction story. He was a kid who grew up, also a New Yorker. He grew up in Poughkeepsie. So he went to rehab when he was 16 with his parents.
Wow.
So there's a lot of stuff that maybe you don't want to say. And there were even, of course, about Scott Weiland. And we didn't get into anything specifics like he's doing this, doing that. But I told him, like, when we're done recording, because right now it's just me and you, if there's anything you're uncomfortable with, just tell me and I'll edit it out.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that. To me, it's like making a movie or writing a book. I don't want any gotcha moments. But in the course of just you and I just talking, or you or any podcaster just talking, when you used to go in Opie, especially Opie and Anthony and places like that, you can be caught saying something you don't want to say. So do you prefer, because you are one of the best storytellers, and I kept thinking about how Brian was telling you the story about how we can go from serious to funny.
Yeah.
People like you are perfect at it. Jay Moore is great at it for making you feel just like you're about to cry, and then just laughing your ass off. Yeah. Do you prefer a certain avenue to tell these stories now, or does that you learned from that? So does that make you any? Because you're obviously you're out, you're touring, you're doing interviews. Are you more worried about what you may say or not?
No, to me it's. Where do I like telling the stories? In the moment. Wherever the moment is. Sometimes the moment is this.
Right.
Sometimes it's on stage. Sometimes I'm stopping to get coffee. And next thing you know, someone brings up a subject, boom, and we're engaged. I love life. And I love people. Love people. Especially the ones that are not brainwashed, that are not, they don't have the ego, they're open.
Yeah.
And I'll open myself to anyone. I'll sit here facing you, no different than I'm facing Howard Stern. And whatever you want to...
I could tell.
And
right.
I think I learned that from my dad, so... The platforms, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because you never know what's going to come out. So sometimes it's a lot better on stage and it's funnier on stage or it's deeper on stage. Sometimes it's better in a podcast. Sometimes it's really better at the end of the night with just your friends. Sometimes with a stranger. It's in the moment when you feel it and the vibe is there and the energy is there. Then it just goes. Doesn't matter. Sometimes it's better telling the story here than I can do another radio station. They go, hey, I heard you, and I heard you talk about this Brian Johnson thing. Tell us about that. It's not going to sound anything like it did here.
Yeah.
So
I try to be very genuine and have a.
So it all depends on the people and all that jazz. So.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I guess how you've learned and from experiences or you love life. We go back to way before. The beginning of the conversation about how you're still kind of burned, and a lot of people are burned about Axl being late. My first concert was 2002.
I feel better now though. After you did AC/DC,
yeah,
I feel better. I will go to a Guns N' Roses. I will go to Guns N' Roses now.
Have you ever before?
No, but I'm dying to. But I wouldn't. Because of that, because he already did it once to me, so I'm like, forget it, I'm not doing this again.
What was the show you tried to go to?
God, they're with Metallica. It was years and years and years and years ago.
Oh, the '92 tour.
Yes, so that's how annoyed. That's how long I've been annoyed.
You're not the only one. Ask anybody from St. Louis.
Yeah, so I would. So I wanted to kind of go see them. I'm like, no, I'll be the show that he doesn't show up, or I'll be the show he's going to be late. And it seems like he's not that person anymore.
Right.
He learned either from AC/DC.
That was part of the interview I was telling you about. He's like, Angus doesn't fuck around. I got to be here on time.
And that's the thing.
It's not my show. This is his show.
It's his show, and maybe he learned. There is a thing between artist and business.
Yeah.
And you have to learn both. And sometimes the artist is like, I'm not doing that because I'm an artist. And I'll paint when I want to paint. I'll do the show when I want to show. That's fine and good, unless you told everyone this is when you're doing it. So I think he had a lot of maturing and growing up to do as a artist, and he has. So I don't have anything against the guy, but I would like to go see them because I think they're one of the greatest bands that ever existed.
You said before how you would do impressions, and hopefully that would put out in the universe. Like that's how you met Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
Do you do an Axl one? Do you want to put that out in the universe? Is that too?
I think he's well aware
of who you are.
Yeah, and things I've said. I don't mean that in a pompous way, but
well, I mean you're famous enough anyway. I'm sure.
And that's another thing with the Brian Johnson. I had no clue. I'm like, who's gonna be listening to what Jim Breuer's talking about? I really had that mentality, and someone said, "You Jim Breuer?" What? I'm like, exactly.
Because it's
Breuer. I'm not the head of Rolling Stone. I'm not the head. Like, why would you take that and run the ball with it?
That was unique because you mix it really well, and I love it how Don Jamieson does it now too. You mix the comedy and the rock and roll, and it was interesting to see a comedian being quoted talking about a rock band. That doesn't happen.
No.
You know, what did Corey Taylor say? That's a thing. You know, all talking about other rock bands. Right. So I think it goes to show you how much credibility you've been given in the rock world.
I guess so.
You know, especially now being touring with Metallica.
Rock world is it's definitely my calling. And I don't mean it by saying I need to be a singer or in a band, but that world, I'm so comfortable in that world. I'm just extremely comfortable in the rock world, rock fans, everything about it. The Metallica gig was the greatest gig I ever had in my whole entire career. It really was. It brought the best out of me. It empowered me. It made me a better person. I loved it. I had so much passion. I enjoyed life every day, part of that. And you can't say that about a lot of things. I mean, that was 6 months, and my family life, everything was just top notch throughout that whole thing. It was amazing.
Could you see not just you doing more of that, but other comedians doing? Because, you know, back in the early days, probably when you were coming up, that's when Lollapalooza came, and just infusing different genres of music. But to have comedians, big comedians, open up for big bands to get creative, because now that's where the money is made, going out on tour. Do you foresee? I'm just trying to think of it. Aziz Ansari opening up for, the Lumineers or something.
Well, what I did was a little different. I wasn't really opening. I was more hosting and creating a show.
Okay.
So I had a DJ.
I didn't see this tour.
Doing all request. What I did was this. First of all, Metallica was in the round. And that's a difficult place for a comedian right off the bat. Because the crowd is not in front of you. They're all around you. They're constantly in a circle. So there's always a lot of people to your back, and that's not good for comedy. So they wanted me to create something for the people coming in. So the first half hour, I had videos and pictures of Metallica from the past that you may have not have seen, from fans and everything, playing on a big screen. Now, you people walking in, are you going to know I put that together? No, but that's okay. Then at 7 o'clock, my DJ would go up and he would take your request. What do you guys want to hear? And then if it was kind of cool, I would tell a story leading up to the song.
Well, that's cool.
And
Master of Ceremonies.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. I was the MC. Then I would go up at 7:30, talk about the night, tell the story, feel the crowd out, Sometimes they were a stand-up comedy crowd, and I would give them stand-up comedy for a half hour. Some of them were like, "Ah, we don't want to stand up. We just want." Okay. Let me tell you when I first met the band. I saw them in '86. Oh, whoa! Now I got all these people's attention, and I told them he's at concert and going to see Ozzy. Now I talk about Ozzy. Now they're, we like you now. All right, you're one of us. That's cool. And then I would stay up to about 8:10. Then I take a camera and I go live backstage to look for the band. Most of the time I found Lars. Once in a while I find James. And you can watch it out in the arena. Then I would take fans, bring them on stage. We do game shows. And if you win, I'm going to personally bring you backstage and you watch when Metallica is ready to walk out on the stage and they do the huddle. I'm going to bring you part of that.
That's a constant experience like no other.
And that's what it was. And then I had a sing-along. And the sing-along was all metal anthems right before they came out. So before Metallica came out, I would stand next to their room where they were rehearsing, their tuning room. They would tune up and do songs and rehearse 40 minutes before every concert. And I would stand outside that room until they were done. And when the last guy walked out, I knew to go running out in the arena. And I said, they're ready. They're behind that curtain. I want to make sure you're ready, and we're going to do a sing-along that I put together. And I would do War Pigs and it was all 1 minute, all the way until the chorus came.
Okay.
It was War Pigs, You Got Nothing Coming, Run to the Hills, Walk by Pantera, and Highway to Hell.
Okay.
And they went berserk. It was my favorite part of the night to see people, I mean, standing, singing, and like, you guys are ready. And then Metallica would come out. It was the great. Now,
how'd you come up with all this? It's not just.
I'm
you're
not
right.
gonna lie to you. In my head, I've had a heavy metal rock show for probably 15, 20 years that I've been dying to put together, but no one would ever help. At one point, true story, VH1, that metal show was offered to me and Eddie Trunk. We sat in a room, and they wanted me and Eddie Trunk. And I had a lot of these sketches and visions for really cool rock, metal things.
Yeah.
I won't say what went down, doesn't need to. So it didn't
Come to fruition?
Didn't come to fruition for whatever reasons. And so
I mean, we need to have more top 10 lists because that's never been done.
Even from there, I said, well, then I'll create my own then. And in my head, I've always had these, and I still have them. I still want to somehow tour and create these shows. But I don't know if I'll ever get the chance to. So when this was the opportunity, it came so natural. I'm like, oh my God, I can use all these things. And I have a lot more if I get to do it again. And I was talking to guys in Metallica. I said, if it ever happens again, even if you use me or not, I got ideas that I'm dying to do that I think will work with a touring metal band or a festival. Big time.
Did they, like, who recruited, like, did you, since you were friendly with Lars, did you say, hey... And James, did you first go to them and say, hey, if this opportunity ever arises? Or they came to you?
They came to me.
So, since you did something different, you weren't just opening. Did you say, I have all these ideas, and you're like, you know what, cool, let's run with it? Or...
Lars went like this. Lars is more the spokesperson, the guy. I personally met with Lars. James first reached out to me, said, we're thinking about bringing you on tour. Don't get excited. Not sure what it is yet.
Okay, I'm already excited.
We want to have a party. Party? What do you mean? We don't know. Shooting T-shirts out of a cannon. Okay. So all these ideas were coming, and having a DJ.
Okay.
I was like, okay. And I was stressed out because I felt, well, shoot, I got to be funny for how long I gotta be funny for? Yeah. So I started making videos, and I still have them on my phone of like elderly people talking lyrics to Metallica songs, and you have to guess the song. And I was coming up with these bits, and it was stressing me out because it may look corny, because I had to put myself as a Metallica fan. Like, do I want to sit and watch this nonsense? And Lars Ulrich, I flew out to San Fran. I knew he was home that week, and I went, "Hey man," he goes. I said, "Can I come by?" He goes, "Oh, what are you doing? You taking meetings?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got all these meetings." I didn't have any meetings. I just wanted to meet with him, and I went there. And went, "Can I? How do you see this? How do you see this show happening?" And that was the game changer. Lars said to me, he said, "Look, man, every band we have, no one comes to see them, because it's such a downer for the band, and it's a downer for us, because we want to expose these bands, because it just sucks when no one's in there."
Yeah, it does.
He goes, "And it's a bummer for them. They get bummed." He goes, "So what we want you to," he goes like this, "listen, tell them why you're connected to the band. When did you meet? Tell stories. Bring a DJ. This is what he said. It was such a high compliment. He goes, "We've known you for years." He goes, "You know how to read a room. You come in, you read a room. Because you are the guy for this job. You come in, you read that room, and you decide what's going to go down that night." He goes, "You know our fans, you know the band, total 100% creative control up to you." And he goes, "And here's the most important thing. You don't have to be funny. Just give them a fan experience."
Okay.
And I went, "Thank you."
That's what you do.
And that's what and once I got off, like, people say you're opening. I'm like, I'm not opening. I'm emceeing this cool event.
Okay.
I'm emceeing the opening party, the opening. And once people started wrapping that around their head, because you say opening, you're thinking I'm going off for 40 minutes, a half hour stand-up comedy.
You're right.
Now, I have full-blown confidence. I could do this for an AC/DC, a Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and I could probably do stand-up in front of all of them. I don't know. But stand-up comedy-wise, if it was me touring as a stand-up comedian, I don't know if that's always the best fit for a hard rock heavy metal band for more than 20 minutes.
I think the way you're doing it and describing it, because I was, I'll admit, I thought you were opening. That's the way all the talking about headlines.
Well, that's yeah.
The headlines seem
But
to
even though Metallica put out Jim Breuer's hosting. Even their words were hosting the lighten up party, but people just say you're opening. They just go into opening, which is natural. So I had to deprogram everyone, and my job was to bring that arena together immediately.
Because no one's done what you created something different.
It's solely different, and they were hopped up, and technically Metallica created that.
Okay,
that's how I see it. They knew. And this is exactly what they were hoping for. And the fact that they took that chance is pretty darn awesome. It's not bringing a comedian with you to tour. It's you're creating something different. That's what's cool.
That band does that, whether you like it or not. Whether it's
you like them or not.
Some kind of monster, whether it's Lulu. So that's something I wanted to ask you, being such a big Metallica fan. Metallica's always doing something different. They've always been together. I know Cliff passed and Jason left, but they've always moved forward. With GNR, the theme of my Guns N' Roses bar mitzvah party of a theme that I have going on in this podcast, of course they went away for a bit, or Axl went away, they broke up, they reunited with basically an all new band, and they're not really seemingly I don't know if they're taking chances, or would you have preferred, I guess, Metallica staying along the same path, maybe like a Maiden, always doing the same thing?
No.
Or
no way.
You like doing the different.
I love that they grow with the times, with their times.
Because you
And
hear
I
all the
get-
time, it's not as good as Kill 'Em All,
Oh,
not as good as Master of Puppets.
Listen.
And you hear it from Guns N' Roses fans, Chinese democracy is not. So
Here's the deal.
it's a growth.
If you can't grow as a human, isn't that what humanity is about?
Yeah.
Are we going to be stuck being 15 years old? I don't want to be. Well, maybe I am. But your experiences are changed. Your responsibilities change. Your financial, everything changes in life. And if you can't, like me as a stand-up comedian, if I'm still doing, hey, you see Half Baked, hey, Saturday Night Live, if I'm doing that,
Yeah.
oh my God, throw me in the sea. Because if that's all I have to offer,
Yeah.
I don't have much to offer anymore. So if anything, I love that Metallica has always evolved and moved on. And whether you think there's music's better than that, I can tell you throughout the years, they've always healed me. They always made me think deeper. They've always brought the energy for me and the passion from the beginning of time all the way up to the new album.
There are a lot of people that said, and I love Some Kind of Monster. I put it up on my social media.
I love it too.
That do you wish that Guns N' Roses did the same thing? Because that band has so much mystery about it. Metallica seems like such a tangible band. Even though they're one of the biggest bands, not just metal bands of all time, it bothers me as a GNR fan that there's no seemingly connection to the fan base. We never know what's going on. Metallica always seems to let you know what's going on. Do you prefer what do you prefer?
I like that I know. Well, I don't really care. But
That's an
Metallica-
answer. That's an answer.
I don't really care. Metallica's open. I think that's part of what I enjoy. Lars is extremely open. And, then you take a band like AC/DC. They're not open.
No.
But I'm still going to love them to death and play them and go see them. So, I guess it depends on the fan, really, at the end of the day.
Since you've had this idea for a long time and you kind of got to live it out a little bit with Metallica,
Yeah.
what is your, I guess, ultimate goal? Because now you're going out on this tour.
Yeah.
And what's different about this tour other than just being like lengthy and just massive? Why not create, or is that down the road perhaps, to do a rock and roll, to put something like that together, to put your Chris Angel Vegas kind of show together? Obviously, everyone loves your stand-up. You're really...
What you just nailed was, in the past, I made the record, and I thought this might be the beginning of putting it all together. And then I realized it really confused people. So, yeah, I'd tour with the band, there'd be 50 tickets sold, which is fine. But when I'm used to selling 1,200, 2,000... couple hundred a night, I can't feed the kids and feed my lifestyle while I'm paying 5 people and 5 hotels and 5 airline tickets.
Sure.
And I'm making $80 for the night. So what I'm saying is, when I just played Europe and I played Download Festival, and a lot of people came to my set, and I specifically made it hard rock heavy metal, and they went berserk. And it seemed my whole European tour was, there's a thrive and there's definitely a hunger for the Jim Breuer hard rock heavy metal material. And that made me go, I think I can create something for these festivals. And maybe that is where this idea that I've had forever goes in my head.
Okay.
Because once the festivals have it, then I can go, hey, because it is a specific audience.
That makes sense.
Because sometimes I'll do my stand-up set and I want to do a lot of hard rock metal stuff, and it's more of they're like, oh, this is not a hard rock. I'm like, yeah, I just toured Metallica, and you don't get half the audience going, yeah! I go, all right, these are my people.
Yeah.
I can go far and wide tonight on a lot of different subjects. Where these 3 or 4, and I go, okay, now if I go far, I've had, dude, he talked about Metallica too much. Okay, that wasn't a rock crowd. So I may lose a lot of my stand-up crowd. I'm going to stick to there. So there, I have to be specific. I have to put something together. But I feel like instead of shooting for TV or a web thing,
Maybe a Netflix special? Would you ever try that?
absolutely.
Okay.
But I feel like I have to do it live first.
Okay.
Where it's an event.
No,
A fun event.
no, that makes sense.
In a tent at a festival.
I
while
like
certain bands aren't playing.
because your fan base is everywhere. You're
It's
not
all over the place.
you're not as
It's a
specific.
spitball.
You're right. So you
Half-baked, heavy metal, Saturday Night Live, stand-up comedy, Mets fans, baseball fans. Wow, this guy's all over the place. Families, all over the place.
yeah. So that
Which is awesome.
that helps. Obviously, that's why you're so successful and you're able to do whatever you put out.
It's so
You always have. It may not even be your entire fan base, but you have such a bit, like a large portion that loves, the rock part of it. There's other ones like you just mentioned. Oh, I want to hear him talk about his parents, or talk about the Mets. And by the way, I guess congrats because they're doing pretty well
Right now,
right now.
I'm excited. I don't want to get too crazy.
Do you because you said rock and roll is your crowd, and I'm not going to keep you here too much longer, and
Yeah.
and I'm gonna.
Well, rock and roll is where I feel most comfortable.
Well, when you were growing up, did you want to be a stand-up? Did you want to be?
I wanted to be a stand-up and frontman for a heavy metal band.
Not / like outfielder for the Mets? And we're gonna end this
No,
part of it here. The
I
rest you're
wanted-
gonna have to hear later.